argument is fallacious. Always remember that. And an argument might be very weak, somewhat strong, or very strong. An argument that has several stages or parts might have some strong sections and some weak ones. So as I said, when the argument is weak, okay, that is fallacies, meaning defects that can cover arguments. So what are the examples of fallacies? Number one, we have here hasty generalization, meaning making assumptions about a whole group or range of cases based on a sample that is inadequate, usually because it is atypical or just too small. Example of hasty generalization is that my roommate said her philosophy class was hard and the one I am is hard too. So all philosophy classes must be hard. So with that, we can see that two people's experiences are, in this case, not enough on which to base a conclusion. So again, hasty generalization is there is stereotyping about people. Example, frat boys are drunkards, grad students are nerdy, etc. So our common example of the principles underlying hasty generalization. So just remember there is a stereotyping for this example, hasty generalization. Sec is hasty, kay may Y. Sige. Mabuti na nandito si Sir Gary. That is hasty. May Y man siya. Hasty, Hasty, hasty generalization. Okay, second example of fallacy is missing the point, meaning the premises of an argument do support a particular conclusion, but not the conclusion that the arguer actually draws. Example, the seriousness of a punishment should match the seriousness of the crime. Right now, the punishment for drunk driving may simply be a fine. But drunk driving is a very serious crime that can kill innocent people. So the death penalty should be the punishment for drunk driving. So this argument actually supports several conclusions. The punishment for drunk driving should be very serious. So in particular, but it doesn't support the claim that the death penalty specifically is warranted. So when we say missing the point again, meaning premises of an argument do support a particular conclusion, but not the conclusion that the arguer actually draws. Okay, so this is the second example. Ano gani yung first? What is the first? First example of fallacy. Joven, are you still there? Hello? What is our first example? Doon na wala na lagi ka mo. What is our first example? Benzar Pindawata. Ano yung first natin? Christine Areglo. Ano yung first example natin ng fallacy? Hindi na ako na... Hindi nakikinig. Oh, wala na si Joven. Cyrene, Ana Riza. Ano yung first example? Benzar. Christine.
Hasty, sir.
Hi, sir, yung first example, sir, or yung...
Yes.
Hello?
Hello? What is the first example? Yes, nansila na ni Benzar.
Yung hasty generalization.
Okay, so I have here an English teacher, Sir Gary. Sir Gary told me that the correct pronunciation is hasty. Hasty daw. Social. Hasty. Yes, hasty generalization. The second example is missing the point. Okay, missing the point. Okay, third, post hoc or the false cause. Post hoc, meaning this fallacy gets its name from the Latin phrase post hoc ergo propter hoc, which translated as after this, therefore because of this. Okay, so what's the definition? Assuming that because B comes after A caused B. Ganun lang, parang binaliktad lang that because B comes after A, so A caused B. Of course, sometimes one event really does cause another one that comes later, for example. So if I register for a class and my name later appears on the roll, it's true that the first event caused the one that came later. But sometimes two events that seem related in time aren't really related as cause and event. So that is correlation isn't the same thing as causation. So example, President Jones raised taxes and then the rate of violent crime went up. So Jones is responsible for the rise in crime. So paano siya naging post hoc? It's because the increase in taxes might or might not be one factor in the raising crime rates, but the argument hasn't shown us that one caused the other. Okay, another example. Fourth example is slippery slope, meaning the arguer claims that a sort of chain reaction, usually ending in some dire consequence will take place, but there's really enough evidence for that assumption. So the arguer asserts that if we take even one step onto the slippery slope, we will end up sliding all the way to the bottom. He or she assumes that we can stop halfway down the hill. Okay, so who can recall again our four examples? Palakat lang sa debate. Last pang debate. Okay, what are the examples of fallacy again? Christine, Valerie, can you enumerate them
Yes.
first?
First is the hasty generalization. Second,
Okay,
the missing point.
okay.
Third, the post hoc. And the last is the slippery slope.
Okay, very good. So example of a slippery slope is animal experimentation reduces our respect for life. If we don't respect life, we are likely to be more and more tolerant of violent acts like war and murder. Soon, our society will become a battlefield in which everyone constantly fears for their lives. So it will be the end of civilization. So to prevent this terrible consequence, we should make animal experimentation illegal right now. So with this example, since animal experimentation has been legal for some time and civilization has not yet ended, it seems particularly clear that this chain of events won't necessarily take place. So that is slippery slope. Next, number five is weak analogy, meaning many arguments rely on analogy between two or more objects, ideas, or situations. If the two things that are being compared aren't really alike in the relevant respects, the analogy is a weak one. And the argument that relies on it commits the fallacy of a weak analogy. Examples. Guns are like hammers, so we are doing the analogy. So they're both tools with metal parts that could be used to kill someone. And yet it would be ridiculous to restrict the purchase of hammers. So restrictions on purchasing guns are equally ridiculous. So based on the example, while guns and hammers do share certain features, these features, having metal parts, being tools, and being potentially useful for violence, are not the ones at stake in deciding whether to restrict guns. Rather, we restrict guns because they can easily be used to kill large numbers of people at a distance. So this is a feature hammers do not share, and it'd be hard to kill a crowd with a hammer. Thus, the analogy is weak, and so is the argument based on it. So if you think about it, you can make an analogy of some kind between almost any two things in the world. My paper is like a mud puddle because they both get bigger when it rains. So I work more when I'm stuck inside and they were both kind of murky. So the mere fact that you draw an analogy between two things doesn't prove much by itself. Okay, so again, let's recall our examples of fallacy. Who can enumerate again? Can we have Joven? Are you still there? What are the examples of fallacy mentioned in our examples? Joven, are you still there? Parang nagawala-wala yung signal. Anariza Salam, Angela Osano. What are examples of fallacies? Siguro naka-off ang camera, tulog ito sila ba? O si Christine na lang. Parang si Christine ang pinaka-alert.
So,
Go.
uh, yung The examples of fallacy first is the hasty generalization.
Yes.
Second, the missing the point. Third,
Okay.
the third is the ano yun? Post. Sir,
Hoc.
nakalimutan ko ang third. Basta fourth is
Post
slippery
post hoc.
post hoc.
Okay.
Fourth is
Fourth,
yung analogy ay slippery
mode.
slippery slope. And the
As the
fifth
first
is
note.
the weak analogy.
Okay, weak analogy. Okay, let's continue. Very good. At least nakikinig. Okay, congratulations. Next is appeal to authority, meaning often we add strength to our arguments by referring to respected sources or authorities and explaining their position on the issues we're discussing. If, however, we try to get readers to agree with us simply by impressing them with a famous name or by appealing to the supposed authority who really isn't much of an expert, we commit the fallacy of appeal to authority. Example of this fallacy: we should abolish the death penalty. Many respected people, such as actor Guy Handsome, have publicly stated their opposition to it. So, based on example, he or she uses the appeal to authority. So, while Guy Handsome may be an authority on matters having do with acting, there's no particular reason why anyone should be moved by his political opinions. He is probably no more of an authority on the death penalty than the person writing the paper. Okay, so understood? Parang they are using popular person or person of authority. Okay, let's continue. Appeal to PT, meaning the appeal to PT takes place when an arguer tries to get people to accept a conclusion by making them feel sorry for someone. Example: I know the exam is graded based on performance, but you should give me an A. My cat has been sick. My car broke down and I have had cold, so it was really hard for me to study. So parang nagmamakaawa, no? This fallacy. So the conclusion here is you should give me an A, no? Naghahangyo siya na bigyan siya ng grade na A. But the criteria for getting an A have to do with learning and applying the material from the course. So the principle the arguer wants us to accept. So people who have a hard week deserves A is clearly unacceptable. So it's another example is it's wrong to tax corporations. So think of all money they give to charity and of the cost they already pay to run their business. Okay. Appeal, another example is appeal to ignorance, meaning in the appeal to ignorance, the arguer basically says, look, there's no conclusive evidence on the issues at hand. So therefore, you should accept my conclusion on the issue. Okay? So example, people have been trying for centuries to prove that God exists, but no one has yet been able to prove it. Therefore, God does not exist. So here is here's an opposing argument that commits the same fallacy. Another example, people have been trying for years to prove that God does not exist, but no one has yet been able to prove it. Therefore, God exists. So with this, in each case, the arguers actually try to use the lack of evidence as support for a positive claim about the truth of a conclusion. There is one situation in which doing is not fallacious. If qualified researchers have used well-thought out method to search for something for a long time, they haven't found it, and it's the kind of thing people ought to be able to find, then the fact that they haven't found it constitutes some evidence that it doesn't exist. Okay? Yung parang they are always looking for a proof. Kaya tinawag siyang appeal to ignorance. Okay, so ilan na lahat? Ilan ang example? If you are still listening, Yvonne Robles. Si Christina naman. Areglo, mag-enumerate.
Eight,
Since,
eight,
okay, what
eight
are
po,
those
sir.
example? Examples.
Generalization,
Case,
missing the point,
okay,
post hoc,
okay,
slippery slope,
yes,
with analogy, appeal to appearance, I appeal to authority, appeal to appearance, and appeal to pity, and appeal to ignorance.
Okay, so there are 8 na. Okay, konti na lang. Now, another example is straw man, meaning one way of making our own arguments stronger is to anticipate and respond in advance to the arguments that an opponent might make. So the arguer sets up a wimpy version of the opponent's position and tries to score point by knocking it down. Example, feminists want to ban all pornography and punish everyone who reads it, but such harsh measures are surely inappropriate. So the feminists are wrong. Porn and its readers should be left in peace. In peace. So we can see that the feminist arguments is made weak by being overstated. In fact, most feminists do not propose an outright ban on porn or any punishment for those who merely read it. Often, they propose some restrictions on things like child porn or propose to allow people who are hurt by porn to sue publishers and producers, not readers, for damages. So, kaninaw siyang straw man. Again, it's because making our arguments stronger is to anticipate and respond in advance to the arguments that an opponent might make. Parang binabaliktad talaga yung opponent. Okay? So they are making wimpy version of the opponent's position and tries to score point by knocking it down. Okay? The last, ilan na ng examples? 1, 2. The last ay 3 pa. 4. Okay. There are 4 na lang. 4 last examples of fallacy. Next one is the red herring, meaning the part way through an argument, the arguer goes off on a tangent, raising a side issue that distracts the audience from what's really at stake. Often, the arguer never returns to the original issue. Okay, by the way, I will be asking you a question. Did you read our Schoology? Wala ito na discuss, no? Wala itong mga examples, meron ba? Or pili lang? Miss Christine, para ikaw lang naka-on kasi ng camera.
No, wala ata, sir. Kaya nga lang dito tong
Strawman?
non-fallacy, tong
Okay.
non-fallacy, kag fallacy. Amo na
Okay.
tandaan, sir.
Oh, very basic lang. Okay, sige. So kung wala siya, dahil na-explore nyo na, so isa-stop na natin ito. Kasi doon lang tayo, ang kinuha ko lang kasi sa exam is doon lang sa may copy kayo. Doon lang sa Schoology ng kuha. Okay? So, paki-screenshot na Miss Christine Arreglo. Please open all your cameras, please. Screenshot na for the attendance kasi this would be our last conference. Abo, alert, alert, magpandas ang kamera. O, kaya nag-lecture, nagatinulog, so naka-off ang mga kamera. So, buong closing ceremony na, on na tanan. Okay, very good, Gid. Okay, go, Christine Arreglo, do the screenshot. And Miss Irene Joy Daklangin, ikaw mag-check ng attendance, i-post ang mga names doon sa GC mamaya. Okay? So, thank you so much for one term na nagkasama tayo. On the second term, hindi na tayo magkita-kita. So, bye-bye na. God bless everyone. Na-screenshot na Miss Christine?
Dana po, sir.
Okay, sige. Thank you so much. I hope you will doing good in our examination. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir. Bye-bye.
Nabi, nabi ng